Well, what if I told you that the biggest reason she hasn't come back isn't because she stopped caring? It's because you're doing exactly what most men do after losing someone: chasing, overthinking, sending emotional messages, and trying to convince her to stay. It feels like the right thing to do, well, but in many cases, it pushes her even further away. The truth is, attraction doesn't grow under pressure. It grows when respect, confidence, and emotional stability replace desperation. If you truly want the best chance of rebuilding a connection, well, you must first understand the psychology behind why people pull away and what actually changes their perception over time. In this video, you'll discover 6 powerful principles that can completely change the way you approach this situation. These aren't manipulation tricks or mind games. Well, they're practical lessons about emotional control, self-improvement, confidence, and healthy relationship dynamics. More importantly, they'll help you become a stronger version of yourself, whether she comes back or not. So before you send another text or make another emotional decision, well, watch this video until the end. One idea you hear today could save you from making the very mistake that causes most men to lose the woman they truly care about. The first thing most men do after a breakup is chase. They send another message, make another call, or search for one more opportunity to explain themselves. They believe that if they can just say the right words, she will suddenly change her mind. In reality, constant pursuit often creates the opposite effect. When emotions are already high, well, repeated attempts to gain attention can feel like pressure instead of love. One of the most important things you can do is step back and allow space to exist between both of you. This is not a game, and it is not manipulation. It is the understanding that every person needs room to think, feel, and reflect without being overwhelmed. When you stop chasing, something powerful happens. Your mind begins to calm down. Instead of spending every hour checking your phone, you start noticing how much energy you were giving to someone else's decisions. Well, that energy can be redirected toward yourself. Use the time to improve your health, your work, your friendships, and your personal goals. A man who has purpose appears stronger than a man whose entire world revolves around one person. Confidence grows when your life has direction, and that confidence is often more attractive than any emotional speech. Another reason space matters is that people rarely appreciate what is constantly pushed in front of them. When communication suddenly becomes less frequent, the other person has an opportunity to experience your absence. Well, she may begin to remember the good moments, the laughter, and the support that once existed. This does not guarantee that she will return, but it creates a healthier environment than endless pleading ever could. Attraction is difficult to rebuild when someone feels cornered or emotionally exhausted. At the same time, giving space does not mean becoming cold or bitter. You do not need to post things to make her jealous, spread rumors, or pretend that you never cared. Well, mature behavior leaves a lasting impression. Respect the relationship for what it was and respect yourself enough to maintain your dignity. Silence can be peaceful when it comes from self-control rather than anger. The truth is that the goal should not be to force someone back into your life. Well, the goal is to become emotionally balanced and strong regardless of the outcome. If she reaches out in the future, you will be able to respond with clarity instead of desperation. And if she chooses a different path, you will still have grown into a better version of yourself. Well, sometimes the strongest move is not chasing harder, but stepping back, rebuilding your life, and allowing time to reveal what is truly meant to stay. That is how you regain your power, protect your peace, and create the best chance for a healthy future, whether together or apart. Well, one of the biggest differences between a man who is respected and a man who is ignored is emotional control. Many relationships begin to fall apart not because love disappears overnight, but because emotions begin to control every decision. After a breakup or during a period of distance, it is natural to feel hurt, confused, or even angry. However, acting on those emotions immediately often creates more damage than healing. Sending long emotional messages, demanding answers, or reacting impulsively may provide temporary relief, but it rarely creates lasting attraction. Emotional stability is far more powerful than emotional intensity. A woman pays close attention to how a man handles pressure. Anyone can appear confident when everything is going well, but true character is revealed during difficult moments. If every disagreement leads to panic, arguments, or emotional outbursts, it becomes difficult to build trust. On the other hand, a man who remains calm, thinks before he speaks, and responds instead of reacting demonstrates maturity. That kind of behavior naturally earns respect because it shows that his emotions do not control his actions. Well, mastering emotional control does not mean pretending that you have no feelings. It means understanding your emotions without allowing them to dictate your choices. Instead of reaching for your phone every time you miss her, well, pause and ask yourself whether your message is driven by clarity or by fear of losing her. Most emotional decisions are made in moments of anxiety, and those moments usually pass if you give yourself enough time. Learning to pause before acting is one of the strongest habits you can develop. Well, this is also the perfect time to build a healthier routine. Exercise regularly, improve your skills, focus on your career, spend time with supportive friends, and develop hobbies that give your life meaning. Well, these habits strengthen your confidence because they remind you that your identity is much bigger than one relationship. A confident man does not depend on constant reassurance from someone else. He creates his own sense of purpose and fulfillment. Well, when a woman notices that you are handling life with confidence instead of desperation, her perception of you can begin to change. She may see someone who has grown emotionally rather than someone who is trapped in the past. Growth is attractive because it reflects resilience, discipline, and self-respect. Even if she does not immediately reach out, you are becoming a stronger person for your own future. Remember, emotional control is not about winning someone back through silence or pretending not to care. Well, it is about becoming the kind of man who can face disappointment without losing his self-respect. Whether she returns or not, your ability to remain calm, make thoughtful decisions, and continue improving your life will benefit every relationship you have in the future. Well, that is the real power of emotional maturity. It transforms not only how others see you, but also how you see yourself. One of the most effective things you can do after a relationship changes is become the version of yourself that even you are proud of. Well, many men spend all their energy trying to convince a woman to come back, but they spend very little time becoming someone worth coming back to. Real change is never about proving a point to someone else. It begins with making the decision to improve your own life, regardless of what happens next. But ironically, this mindset often creates the greatest transformation because your focus shifts from seeking approval to building genuine confidence. Start by taking an honest look at your daily habits. Ask yourself whether you are growing or simply repeating the same routine. Well, small improvements made consistently can create remarkable results over time. Wake up earlier, take care of your physical health, read books that expand your thinking, develop new skills, and invest in your career or personal goals. These actions may seem unrelated to relationships, but they shape the kind of person you become. Confidence is not built by saying positive words to yourself. It is built by keeping promises you make to yourself every day. Your appearance also plays a role, not because perfection is required, but because self-care reflects self-respect. While dressing well, maintaining good hygiene, exercising regularly, and carrying yourself with confidence communicate that you value yourself. These changes are not about impressing one specific person. They are about creating a lifestyle that reflects discipline and maturity. Well, people naturally notice those who take responsibility for their own lives instead of waiting for someone else to make them happy. Personal growth also includes emotional development. Learn from the mistakes that happened in the relationship instead of blaming only the other person. Every relationship teaches valuable lessons about communication, patience, trust, and emotional awareness. A man who is willing to learn becomes stronger after disappointment, while a man who refuses to reflect often repeats the same patterns. Well, growth begins when you accept responsibility for the things you can control and let go of the things you cannot. As your life becomes more meaningful, something important changes inside you. You stop measuring your value by whether one person texts you back or chooses to return. Well, your happiness becomes connected to your purpose rather than to someone else's decisions. This creates a quiet confidence that cannot be faked. People are naturally drawn to individuals who have direction, ambition, and emotional balance because those qualities create security and respect. Well, if she notices these changes, she may begin to see a different version of you than the one she remembered. She may recognize greater confidence, maturity, and stability. There are never guarantees in relationships, and no amount of self-improvement can force another person to come back. However, becoming the best version of yourself ensures that you are prepared for whatever the future holds. Whether she returns or a new opportunity enters your life, you will be standing on a stronger foundation built through discipline, self-respect, and continuous growth. Well, that is a transformation that benefits you long after the emotions of the past have faded. One mistake many men make after a breakup is believing they must constantly explain themselves to keep a woman's attention. They think that if they send one more message, one more apology, or one more emotional conversation, everything will suddenly return to normal. In reality, saying too much often removes the very thing that naturally keeps people interested: curiosity. When every thought, emotion, and intention is immediately shared, there is little left for the other person to wonder about. Healthy attraction often grows when people have the opportunity to think, reflect, and become curious on their own. Curiosity is not created through manipulation or playing childish games. It comes from living a meaningful life that does not revolve around convincing someone to stay. When you become focused on your own goals, personal growth, and daily responsibilities, your attention naturally shifts away from seeking constant validation. Instead of wondering why she has not replied, you begin asking yourself how you can improve your future. This change in mindset is noticeable because your confidence starts coming from within rather than from someone else's approval. Well, many men feel uncomfortable with silence because they immediately assume silence means rejection. However, silence does not always have a negative meaning. Sometimes it simply gives both people time to process emotions without unnecessary pressure. Well, filling every quiet moment with another message can interrupt that process. Giving space allows conversations to happen more naturally if they happen at all. It also demonstrates emotional maturity because you are showing that you respect both your own boundaries and hers. Well, another important lesson is to avoid trying to create curiosity through jealousy or manipulation. Posting content just to make someone jealous, pretending to have moved on when you have not, or intentionally seeking attention from others rarely creates healthy attraction. Well, these behaviors often damage trust and reveal insecurity instead of confidence. Genuine curiosity develops when your actions reflect growth, consistency, and self-respect rather than emotional games. Focus on becoming genuinely interesting instead of trying to appear interesting. Well, continue learning new skills, improving your communication, building meaningful friendships, and pursuing goals that give your life purpose. A man with ambition, discipline, and emotional balance naturally becomes more attractive because his identity is not dependent on one relationship. Well, his life continues moving forward, and that creates a sense of confidence that cannot be manufactured. If she eventually notices these changes, her curiosity may grow naturally because she sees someone who has matured instead of someone who is desperately seeking attention. Well, she may wonder what changed, how you became more confident, or why you seem more peaceful than before. Whether that curiosity leads to a conversation or not is entirely her choice. Your responsibility is not to control her decisions, but to continue becoming a better version of yourself. Well, real confidence is built through consistent actions, not constant explanations. When your life speaks louder than your words, people often notice without you having to convince them. That quiet confidence leaves a stronger impression than endless attempts to prove your worth ever could. Well, one of the biggest reasons many relationships never get a second chance is not because love completely disappeared, but because the same mistakes continue long after the relationship has changed. When emotions take over, many men react without thinking. Well, they send repeated messages after receiving no reply, ask mutual friends for updates, post emotional quotes on social media, or try to make a woman feel guilty for leaving. While these actions may seem understandable during moments of pain, they often communicate insecurity instead of strength. Well, the more pressure someone feels, the more likely they are to create even greater emotional distance. Another common mistake is trying to force closure. Many people believe every relationship must end with a long conversation where every question is answered. In reality, well, life does not always provide that opportunity. Repeatedly asking for explanations or demanding another chance can make the other person feel emotionally overwhelmed. Sometimes the healthiest decision is to accept that not every answer will come immediately. Well, emotional maturity means understanding that peace does not always come from receiving more information. Sometimes it comes from accepting uncertainty and continuing to move forward with dignity. Many men also make the mistake of allowing loneliness to control their decisions. Well, missing someone is completely natural, but loneliness often creates the illusion that any contact is better than no contact. As a result, they reach out repeatedly even when there are clear signs that space is needed. Instead of easing the situation, well, this behavior can reduce respect because it shows that emotions are leading every decision. Learning to manage loneliness through healthy friendships, meaningful work, exercise, and personal goals creates emotional stability that benefits every future relationship. Well, another mistake is believing that jealousy will bring someone back. Posting photos with other people, pretending to have an exciting new relationship, or trying to make a former partner feel replaced may attract temporary attention, but it rarely rebuilds genuine trust. Well, healthy relationships are based on honesty, respect, and emotional security, not emotional games. When someone realizes they are being manipulated, they often become even more certain about keeping their distance. Well, blaming the entire relationship on the other person is another habit that prevents growth. Every relationship involves two individuals, and while responsibility is not always equal, there is usually something valuable to learn from every experience. Well, taking responsibility for your mistakes is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of maturity. A man who reflects on his behavior becomes wiser, while a man who only blames others often repeats the same unhealthy patterns in future relationships. Well, the truth is that avoiding these mistakes is not simply about increasing the chance that she might come back. It is about becoming someone who responds to difficult situations with patience, confidence, and self-respect. Whether this relationship is restored or not, well, the lessons you learn today will shape every relationship you have in the future. future. Real growth begins when you stop asking, how can I make her come back? And start asking, how can I become a better man regardless of the outcome? Well, that shift in perspective changes everything because it places your future in your own hands instead of leaving it dependent on someone else's decision.